Sally.
Hi.
How are you this evening? You look gorgeous. I don't know what your secret is, but you look gorgeous. My question is, you did a massive amount of research for the role of Mary Todd Lincoln. You wanted to play it for a very long time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know what to say. I mean, the research and the things that I did are, on the screen. So I did as much research as I possibly could do to understand who this person was, and then to, let it go and fling it at the wall and see what stuck,
When you played her, after all that you did you know her better? Did you learn more about her once you got into her skin?
Well, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I knew something about her, but when you do a tremendous amount of research, you learn a lot of facts that some of them you keep and some of them you toss aside because there's so much conflicting theories about Mary. So you kind of have to homogenize the whole thing.
Are there any other great roles you would like to play that you haven't done yet?
Yeah, I want to play Abraham Lincoln. That's the one I want to play next. I've decided. I've set my mind to it.
And I think you can do it.
Darn it, I'm going to play it.
Sally, real quick.
Please welcome the president of the board of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, Doug Stone.
Tonight, we are thrilled to present Academy Award-winning actor Daniel Day-Lewis with the Montecito Award. Tonight's evening is sponsored by Bridlewood Estate Winery. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce the moderator, Scott Feinberg, a columnist for The Hollywood Reporter. Scott?
Thank you, Doug and Roger and Carol, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are in for a rare treat. In looking back across the history of motion pictures, one can point to a select few actors who truly raised the bar for everyone else. There was Chaplin, the silent clown, Lawton, the chameleon, Tracy, the naturalist, Garfield, Brando, Clift, and Dean, the method men, De Niro, Pacino, Hoffman, Duvall, and Nicholson, their new Hollywood heirs. And then there's the man who I would argue is the most versatile and transformative and awe-inspiring and consistently great of today's actors, Daniel Day-Lewis. Over the last few weeks, I have had the great pleasure of revisiting most of the 20 films in which Daniel has appeared over the last 42 years, only 6 of which have come in the last 16. His career spans 1971's Sunday Bloody Sunday, in which he made his big screen debut at the age of 14 in the uncredited part of a child vandal, through Lincoln, which is still in theaters, and in which he gives a landmark performance as America's 16th president that might well bring him an unprecedented third Best Actor Academy Award. And folks, he's only 55. In other words, he's just getting started. This is, it's unbelievable. And I think at this point, a lot of us are starting to even wonder if he's capable of not doing a great performance. I mean, let's be honest, he could walk up here tonight drinking a milkshake with his left foot while boxing or performing a ballad as Jack and Rose, and I don't think we'd be that shocked. But to talk more about him and his remarkable work, I'd like to invite to the stage someone who has known him for 21 years. It was 21 years ago that they collaborated on what proved to be a truly great film. Please join me in welcoming the great writer and director of Last of the Mohegans and so many other great movies, Michael Mann.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Daniel's work is so extraordinary that the term acting doesn't really apply anymore. It's something else on a whole different elevated plane. He inhabits himself with character, body, and soul. and we find ourselves in an intimate proximity to another human being with dimensions of authenticity unlike we've ever experienced. And the character Daniel builds is built to a degree that extends well beyond the requirements of the text. He builds himself out to the horizon. What's captured in the 2.5-hour frame of the motion picture is only a part of what Daniel's done. Therefore, it's kind of predictable that for Daniel, his reaction to his own work when he sees it on the screen often is a feeling of incompletion, because there was so much more that was created there. But you ask yourself, what makes Daniel's work so unique? He isn't bringing to us a fine representation of another person. He's bringing something much more. From preparation and research, one can get a vivid imagining of another life and time, but he goes much further. He searches into the soul of a character, and he creates within himself the dynamics that will bring forth bold gestures, create complexity and depth, anomalies, raw and ragged edges, and somehow he manages to find these dynamic spikes of very intense expression. So as a consequence of that, his work impacts upon us with the soul of a man like no one else's can. That's why he's unique. It takes us hostage with its self-evident truth-telling. It is not Lincoln, it is based on Lincoln. It's Daniel's bold expression of Lincoln that yields to us, ironically, probably the authentic soul of Lincoln. And Daniel Plainview, and There Will Be Blood, and Bill the Butcher and Gangs, and Christy Brown, and My Left Foot, and Hawkeye, and Last of the Mohicans. The work for Daniel is an act of passion and complete total commitment. The result is grace. As a person, Daniel Day-Lewis is a strange combination. He's a modest man with artistic ambition that rockets into the sky. He's also one of the best people on the planet Earth, and it's one of the great joys of my life that we've been good friends since 1992. Now let's take a look at some of Daniel's work. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, I think on behalf of every person here, thank you very much for coming to Santa Barbara and doing this. It means a lot.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, there, in the remaining years of the 1990s, we saw The Crucible, which not only was great for the audience, but I guess it led to something pretty great for you, namely your future wife. And that was followed that was 1996. In 1997, a third collaboration with Jim Sheridan, the boxer, and it's been said by the person who you trained with for, I've heard, 3 years, that you could have turned pro. You were so truly good at that. But then there was that 5-year period of recharging, I guess, when not only, that's where I think a lot of the mythology is sprouted from. And so I guess, though, the question is, for the 2 films that you, or the 3 films that you then came back for, after that long gap, there was a relatively compact period of a lot of productivity. Gangs of New York with Martin Scorsese, Bill the Butcher. The Ballad of Jack and Rose, directed by your wife, Rebecca Miller. Great film and filmmaker. And then, I think a role that has certainly shown you in a completely different light than we'd ever seen you before, and produced some of the most memorable scenes and lines of any film, Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. And so I guess, first of all, I think very thankful that you came back after that 5-year period. I don't know, some people had called it a retirement. Was that an inaccurate phrase, or would you have called it that?
Semi-retirement.
Semi-retirement. But you came back and you had these 3 films, and I just wonder if you can touch upon, they're so different in scale and size and demands upon you. What stands out in your mind when you think about those ones that you came back for? And I guess, if I may, just particularly Gangs of New York was the first one back.
Yeah,
What about that made you reconsider your... Martin.
I heard from somebody else, can't remember who, that he wanted to call me about something, and I thought, oh no, oh no, because I didn't feel ready to work. But as he told me the story, I knew it was finished. I mean, I had no choice really. He told me the story on the phone, and then I kind of played around with the idea for a bit and came over to New York to meet him and talk with him some more. And I met Leo and talked to him a bit about it as well. I was trying to find, I often trying to find excuses. I try every excuse I can. When I run out, I know that. Gangs of New York was, no one's ever had to sell me anything. Anyone that's ever had something of value and know that it's of value doesn't try and sell it. And that, I'd say it's true of everything I've ever done, that the directors that have given me these incredible opportunities, they've never tried to sell them to me. They didn't need to. I mean, the trick for me is to sell it to myself. And as much as I'm looking for that moment where you feel that you're drawn irresistibly into the orbit of another world, almost like a physical sensation, I'm also asking myself the question at the same time, am I able to serve this director in what they're trying to do and serve that story? And I don't necessarily arrive at a point where I think, yes, I am able to, but that need, luckily, takes care of that. I just figure, for better or worse, if they've invited me to do it, then who am I to?
Well, consistent with that is your experience, I believe, with Lincoln, where Steven Spielberg wasn't going to make the movie without you, and you initially, nevertheless, were not going to sign up for it. A few times, I think you declined, and I guess the question there is, of course, what eventually changed your mind?
I can only say it's time. I mean, the first time there was no question. I mean, I was intrigued to meet the person that would think me capable of such a thing, and had a really lovely, memorable meeting with Stephen, and left him thinking that's a person I would dearly like to spend time with, either working or not, either way. Then some years passed, and then Tony Kushner wrote his version of that same story. And then when I read that, it intrigued me greatly, but still, as it were, from the point of view of somebody who would wish to see that story told by somebody else, preferably. And so I can't account for it. In any situation, I can't account for it. But it kind of goes back to what you were asking me earlier on about these times spent away and then coming back to the work. For whatever reason, there are moments in time when you have a very particular need to express a certain thing, to explore a certain part, I suppose, of your own life and your own experience. The illusion, of course, is that you're responding to this other life. In my case, almost invariably, it's a life that's completely mysterious to me and very far removed from my own experience. But nonetheless, somewhere there's a correspondence between us, and I recognize that. I don't think about it, but there's a need in that moment to both explore their experience, their life, but of course, at the same time, to explore some part of my own life through them. And so timing is, the odds are stacked against you, always. Because I'm an actor, I'm not creating work for myself, I'm very much in the hands of other people. That doesn't bother me at all. But the chances of somebody thinking that they really wish to do something with you, that kind, and you at one and the same moment feeling that personal need to explore the same thing, it's a rarity when that happens. I suppose that's why a lot of people that work in some collaborative art form also find some way of doing some kind of work where they're just entirely beholden to themselves. But it was interesting with Rebecca's film, The Ballad of Jack and Rose, because it's actually the reason why we met. She sent it to me 9 years before we actually made the film. And I just thought it was a remarkable script. It was very unusual, very appealing sense of humor, very unusual story, beautiful imagery, beautifully written. And I didn't feel able to do that story at that time. It demanded a lot. I could sense what kind of a demand that would make, that story. And I didn't feel any more ready to do that than I felt ready to take on Lincoln when I first came to that. But I wanted to meet the person who'd written it. And then we got married. And then,
As you do.
as you do, and then years passed, and she just occasionally put the idea in front of me again, and at a certain moment there was no other thing that I was able to see but that story. It's time.
The final question from me, and I know, but
You're so good at this. I don't know how you know every single thing there is to know about.
I appreciate it. You're a fun guy to study. But I just want to ask, and we'll look at clips of a couple of those films that we mentioned. But when you, having undertaken such intense, long preparation like what you've described, see a movie like a personal story like There Will Be Blood, or something that was a passion project, and then for Steven Spielberg, a movie that wouldn't have been made had you not been a part of it, and then see that film take on a life of its own. For reviews are great, yeah. But even just the impact around the world, where you could probably walk in anywhere and somebody will ask you about drinking their milkshake, or Lincoln. Look at the impact already this movie that's still in theaters has had in terms of encouraging dialogue about the political discourse today. So I just wonder, if you're ever able to sort of step back and remove yourself from being in the middle of this experience and appreciate the amazing impact that these films and collectively your career has had on so many people.
and I'm not reaching for, some kind of self-deprecation there at all. I genuinely, I suppose, again, I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said 1,000 times before, but I always, if something works, apparently, and people take to it, I'm always amazed. And that amazement comes partly from the fact that I look at that thing and I don't really feel in any way responsible for it. Even now, though I'm still connected to Lincoln because I wish to be, not because I have any real reason to think that I am, but I look at that work experience and I don't really understand what happened. I don't know how it happened. I don't know. It feels almost as if I'm examining somebody else's experience, and that's invariably true. So I'm delighted. I can't tell you how thrilled I am when people, because of course, I've made films that no one has seen, and you'd rather wish a few people had. I don't begin with any kind of ambition from that point of view, other than to, I suppose it's a very selfish thing, other than to do that work that one feels compelled to do. But when people take to it, it's a wondrous thing to me. The sad thing is that I feel that it's really got nothing to do with me whatsoever. So, and yet, how else could it be? Yeah.
Well, I think case in point, and this is the final thing you'll hear from me, but let's take a look at two of the scenes that I think will be attached to you forever, and rightfully so.
Please welcome the Executive Director of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, Roger Durling.
First of all, I need to acknowledge Scott Feinberg for the amazing job moderating this. Truly fantastic. We've wanted to honor Daniel Day-Lewis for the past 10 years. And we waited and waited for this moment. Yes, it would be a big coup for any film festival to celebrate the greatest actor working in cinema, but for me, it became a professional and a personal quest as well. You see, I had a debt to pay for both the film festival and myself. My beautiful laundrette opened the first film festival in 28 years ago. But also 28 years ago, for a young gay man who loved movies as much as I did, it was the first time that two men in love were presented so positively. In my beautiful laundrette, this love between two people who happened to be two men was presented without apology, without explanation. And I saw Daniel Day-Lewis portraying on the big screen this gay man who had no self-loathing. And it changed my life that day. And I have been so indebted to this actor ever since. And, tonight is just, it's quite an amazing evening for Santa Barbara and for myself. To present this humble token from us to you. I'm deeply honored to introduce two-time Academy Award winner for Best Actress, the magnificent Sally Field.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Actors are storytellers. We don't use a pen and paper or paints. We don't write the words or the music, nor do we play it on a musical instrument. Our only instrument is ourselves, our bodies, our voices, our imagination, and our own history. We have different techniques and methods to try to create the illusion of other people's lives, seeking to resemble someone else, to become someone else. And through us, the story is told. Whether it was Charles Laughton or Frederick March, Spencer Tracy or Marlon Brando, they were using themselves to interpret stories, characters, and explore what it is to be human. These extraordinary actors, I think, challenge the contemporary take on the craft of acting. I believe Daniel Day-Lewis is doing that very same thing today. With so many performances we have seen up here tonight, My Left Foot, The Last of the Mohicans, The Boxer, In the Name of the Father, Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood, and now Lincoln. His deep exploration of the characters he takes on change his physical and emotional presence so thoroughly we, the audience, forget we have ever seen him on the screen before. It's simply astonishing. As though he somehow wrapped himself up in silk, hung upside down from a tree until he emerged another human being altogether. And then he carefully and totally allows us, his audience, to connect with this other person. He never asks anything from us. He simply presents the character and therefore tells the story. My mother was a working class actor. She never achieved the kind of skill she wanted, but she understood it and appreciated it. And she always said to me, Sal, the camera is very powerful. Eventually, it sees who you are. And if that's true, then we have seen Daniel's core, his integrity, his relentless commitment, and his intense concentration, his fearless, exquisite intelligence, and his deep sense of humanity. As an actor, I have been lucky enough to stand toe-to-toe with him, of sorts. In the heart of the battle, where your fellow actor is your comrade in arms, and everyone is boiled down to their key ingredients. You either know you're on your own against the ever-present enemy of mediocrity, or you know your teammate has your back, would fall on the grenade if need be. I refuse to believe that a good actor can force another actor to be better. That no one can give you. But then, I'm not sure. He gave me strength and a safe place to be dangerous, and he has my heart. There's an old joke about actors. How many actors does it take to screw in a light bulb? One actor to screw it in, and 450,000 to stand around and say, I could have done that. In Daniel's case, it took one actor to screw in the light bulb, and everyone else on earth to say, how the holy hell did he do that? It is my great privilege to present this year's Montecito Award to Daniel Day-Lewis.